Hello, everyone, and welcome back. My name's Roger from the Expedition Project. We are back live with part 2 of Biomimicry Online Live, our second episode in the series. If you missed the last one, do go and check it out. We're going to be joined with Sue Swain, founder of Biowise, in a minute to have another eye-opening discussion about biomimicry. Really excited about it. So for starters, do send us in a little message to say where you're watching this from in the world. You can start sending your questions, your biomimicry related questions in, so we can sort of answer that during the Q&A. But for now, let's just have a little look and remind ourselves of what biomimicry is all about.
Imagine an experience that ignites the same spirit of adventure and pursuit of discovery as exploring the outer limits of space. But where the adventure lies not beyond our galaxy, but right here in exploring the extraordinary diversity and hidden depths of this planet. An experience that reveals how nature is a vast library of ingenuity we can learn from. A library filled with proven, real solutions for all our human development and sustainability challenges. Solutions based on the billions of years of research and development by the natural world's designers, architects, engineers, and scientists. This is the science of biomimicry, the practice of learning from and emulating nature's genius. Biomimicry is at the forefront of innovation. It is the next revolution, the natural revolution. Now, imagine the place that brings all this to life, that showcases and fuels this natural revolution. A place that brings the same kind of enchantment, thrills and magic to the world as Disney intended, but where the wonder does not lie in the realm of make-believe, but in the reality of nature's genius and the value of this genius to us.
Welcome back, Sue. Thank you so much for joining us again. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, Roger. Thanks again for this evening. It's going to be great fun. I look forward to it, and thanks.
Really looking forward to it. So before we get started, I think it'd be a good idea just to introduce some of the the stars of the show again. What do you think?
I think that's a great idea.
Let's have a little look.
Allow me to introduce some of the stars of our show. First up, a few of our PhD graduates, our doctors in physics who have both specialized in the field of cutting-edge nanotechnology, followed by our doctors in the chemical sciences, specifically chemical engineering and materials science, both of whom just happen to be professors of benign chemistry. Then we have our professional designer who has mastered the art of multifunctional design, while the marketing and advertising expertise of these two has everyone abuzz with excitement. Not to be outdone, our brilliant architects and engineers have trade secrets to reveal, game-changing ones at that. Our specialist manufacturers can teach us a thing or two about radical resourcefulness, while our energy experts, well, they have a wealth of knowledge to share in terms of efficiency and energy generation. Given recent developments, the innovative strategies of two of our medical advisors are likely to be the talk of the town. And lastly, we have our community consultants who are dying to share their fresh approach to town planning and their proven socio-economic model. All of these stars have one thing in common, and it's something we share in too. So without further ado, let the show begin.
I love that. All introductions now done. We know everyone that's going to be a part of the discussion. I think we should just dive straight in. What do you think?
Yep, let's go for it.
Okay, so just to remind everyone, whether you're watching this live or on replay, the format for the Biomimicry on live streams and how we're going to run this is we basically working through in chronological order the topics that are now available on the Expedition Project website, which are Sue and Biowise's Biomimicry Online course. Now, this is up to quite a few modules already. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go through and start to talk about some of the topics that Sue's been talking about in the online modules. If you want to find out more information, obviously the best thing would be to sign up for these, go and check those out, and you can get a lot more detail. But during these discussions, we want to sort of get the conversation going, see what you guys think, send us in your questions, and then in between that, Sue and I are just going to have a little bit of a chat, I think. So yeah, that's the plan. So first up, I know one of the first things you started talking about, Sue, in Biomimicry Online was you took a step back and you went and looked at it from a sort of planetary context, already trying to get a bit of perspective and look at the setting. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct, Roger. I think, what's really important is a key element of biomimicry is reconnecting. And with that comes the intention of that is also to have almost a revaluing of life on Earth. But that key on Earth is also an important thing. So stepping back and saying, okay, let's just reconnect with our planetary home. And get a sense of this extraordinary place that we are privileged to call home. And yeah, so that's really the thinking behind that, because everything that nature does, that life on Earth does, is based on our planetary context as well. So it's really important that we get to grips with that. But I feel personally that just a valuing of it to start off with, before we get into the nitty-gritty of how things work on Earth, is to just say, wow, basically.
Okay, so perfect. So let's have a little look. We've got a little clip here, which is just giving you a little bit of insight to the Planet Earth, the setting lesson, which is one of the first lessons in Biomimicry Online. So let's have a little look at this.
The vast expanse of our universe. Apparently still expanding, current calculations have the universe to be some 93 billion light years in diameter, meaning it would take light 93 billion years to travel across the universe. And light is by no means slow. Slightly faster than your average Ferrari, light travels at around 300,000 kilometers per second, which amounts to just under 10 trillion kilometers in 1 year. So to figure out the actual kilometers it would take to traverse the universe, one would have to multiply 10 trillion by 93 billion, and we're not going to even go there. Point being, the distance is mind-boggling. We can't possibly conceive it. The universe is unimaginably large. And within this incredibly massive universe, it is estimated that there are at least 100 billion galaxies. A galaxy being a huge collection of dust, gas, billions of stars, solar systems, and planets, all held together by gravity. And amidst these billions of galaxies, located nowhere special, somewhere in the middle of nowhere, we find a rather ordinary, although quite attractive, average-sized spiral galaxy known as the Milky Way. In this galaxy, it's estimated there are around 400 billion stars and likely even more planets. And in an outlying, nondescript neighborhood in this particular galaxy, in a small, quiet suburb known as Orion's Arm, we find a run-of-the-mill, medium-sized and calmly active star that is being orbited by 8 rather unexceptional planets. Well, except for one, that is, for it is here, out of the trillions upon trillions of planets that exist throughout this whole universe, that we find the only planet that is known to sustain life. Complex, intelligent life at that. Earth, our planetary home, one of a kind. What are the odds of that?
It is incomprehensible, isn't it, really, when you do take a step back and look at it that way?
Absolutely. I mean, just in our galaxy alone, the estimates of being 400 billion planets. And you think, well, how is it that, and I mean, believe you me, and we've got very, very powerful telescopes that can see really far out there. And yet we haven't discovered anything else remotely like Earth, It's really quite something.
You're very good in the lessons and the different modules that you're doing of putting it into context and trying to give some examples to give a bit of scope on it all. For example, comparing it to a Ferrari and stuff like that. It is very good. And I guess what we need to do to even try and comprehend some of the stuff is to try and break it down as simple as we can, and then work from there.
Absolutely, yeah. We do need to do a little bit of reverse engineering. One of the skills in biomimicry is the art of like zooming in and zooming out, so that you do continually get perspective for what you are discovering. So I think that's an important one. So even just with this lesson was to zoom out a bit beyond our planet to understand just how vast the universe is. I mean, can you imagine trying to work out 93 billion times 10 trillion? And that's just, it is mind-boggling. We can't fathom it. But hopefully within that realization, we'll start to develop a humbling of what we have been blessed with. No matter what you may believe in, from a spiritual, religious point of view, the fact is we're one of a kind, to the best of our knowledge. And we've got a lot of technology, that we've been tapping into for many years to try and discover other planets similar. Yeah.
So just a reminder for everyone watching out there, send us in your questions, anything you want to know. The topic we're talking about today is we're kind of taking a step back and looking at more of the planetary setting, our place in the universe. So we got sort of 3 parts we're gonna go into this today. And then in the subsequent Biomimicry Online live streams, we're going to start to work through some of the online modules that Sue's put together, which are fantastic. So Sue, we've got a question that's been sent in, and it is from Rachel. She says, are there examples, well, quite a difficult question actually, are there examples of universal biomimicry rather than just planet Earth biomimicry?
Sure, that's an interesting question. I wonder, the one thing that we can understand with nature is we talk about life being cellular and nested. So for instance, you've got, community of organisms that live within a larger habitat, within an ecosystem, within a biosphere. So one could say you've got Earth and we're spinning with the moon around the sun, and together with the sun's taking us on a jaunt around the galaxy, and our galaxy is also nested within the larger universe. So in terms of that, one could make some kind of a connection. But understanding that biomimicry is literally about reconnecting with and learning from life on Earth as such. So all the lessons are contextually based, but I'd like to give us some deeper thought as well. And it's a great question. Thank you, Rachel, if you're listening. And and maybe we can get feedback from people who are doing the course as well, what they might think as it comes up, because that's really what I would love us to achieve also through the course, Roger, is developing a network of people who've done the course, and that there's feedback, there's this community of shared knowledge or understandings and insights and things that happens as well. Because I'm learning hugely just putting this course together as well, making daily discoveries. Yeah.
And I think it's important just a reminder for everyone out there listening, whether you're watching it live on replay, is that we're not trying to reinvent the wheel with these courses. There's plenty of other fantastic courses out there. This is just one part of it, and we're taking a bit of a different approach, which is really exciting. And as Sue mentioned, it is all about the collaboration and the community we're creating. Get the conversation going, which is why these live streams are a part of it and so important. And another reason why we're going to treat these live streams, sort of topic by topic, rather than just having open sort of general discussions, so that when you're going through the course, you can then go back to the Q&A and go back to these live streams. And maybe that might help you just get a bit more context onto what you're learning at the time.
Great. And I think if I may just quickly pop in there, Roger, I think you made a really important point about us having focused on a different element towards biomimicry, and not focused on it as an approach to innovation as much as a way of life, a way of being. So where we're reconnecting with and learning from life is about how we can live in rich and meaningful relationship with life. And so it would also then serve as a fantastic precursor for people then wanting to go further into the design and innovation space, for which there are fantastic courses out there too.
Yeah. And God knows we need all the help we can get right now. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think the relationship side of thing is so important, to be honest now. Yeah.
Definitely. So Julie has just sent in a little question. She says, Sue, you have a remarkable ability to share your own sense of wonder and to impart this with others. And I absolutely agree. I've known Sue for probably about 15 years now, and do 100% agree with you, Julie. She says, how do people learn to open their eyes and hearts to this as well, to want to get to know more? Presumably there is an answer in nature.
Absolutely. I think, Julie, it's thanks so much for the question, for having joined us. The answer really is getting out in nature and tapping into who we are and finding the connectedness that we have out there with every living being. We truly have taken ourselves on a journey of separating ourselves from nature. We've never achieved a severing. We might have thought we have, but we haven't. But we have lost that sense of our connectedness with. So the answer is definitely in nature, by getting out in nature. And I think just being willing to open yourselves up to discovering a relationship with life. Yeah.
Thank you so much for the question, Julie, and everyone watching. Keep sending in your questions, and even if you're watching this on replay, pop a little question in the comments or the reply section, and Sue and I can get back to you even if we're off air. Definitely, as Sue mentioned, it's all about getting the conversation going. Okay, so let's move on to the next little part within Biomimicry Online Live episode 2, and this time we're going to be talking about our place in the universe, and in particular, one element that makes it so important to be where we are and how it's all working. So I'm going to move on to part 2. Let me just play you a quick clip and then we'll discuss it. So check this out.
Water is a key ingredient for life, but it needs to be liquid water. You see, one of water's contribution to life is that it's an amazing solvent and transport system, dissolving the chemicals needed for life and transporting them to and from and within cells that use those chemicals for energy and growth. And a small pool or puddle of water wouldn't do. Plenty is required, and Earth ticks that box just perfectly, with 70% of its surface being covered in liquid water. Of course, to have liquid water means the temperature of the planet must be just right. Too hot, the water would simply evaporate. Too cold, it would freeze over. Earth's average temperature is an ideal 15 degrees Celsius. But to have the right temperature means you have to be the right distance from the stellar source of your heat. And in this, Earth has picked her spot perfectly. It's called the Goldilocks zone, the sweet spot around a star where water can remain in a liquid state. But then for complex life to thrive, you also need the range in temperature to not be too extreme. And this requires having just the right orbit around a star that is not too deviantly eccentric or elliptical, so that you neither get too close nor zoom too far away from your star. And Earth's orbit is almost perfectly circular. So this grand old lady is just eccentric enough to make life interesting.
So that's part 2, talking about Goldilocks zone within the universe and our place in it. So this is all part of one of the first modules in Biomimicry Online, where we're sort of taking a look back. So Sue, we've got a question that's come off straight off the bat from this. Are you happy to dive straight in, or do you want to do any comments following that video?
No, I'm happy for us to dive into the question.
So that's obviously, we were talking about water. There's just obviously one of those elements. There are many more that make it the Goldilocks zone. But here's an interesting question, and I think quite a hot topic at the moment, because apparently they have released a lot of files in the US about is there extraterrestrial life? Are they UFOs and stuff out there? So it is interesting having a think about this. In your view, do you think that there are other Goldilocks zones out there that are similar to ours?
I think, Roger, when you consider the vast expanse of the universe, I don't think you can discount the possibility, absolutely, of others out there, just by virtue of simple numbers. And I think nature would kind of confirm that as well. Whether they'd be exactly like us, are they water-based? And then it would be fascinating to understand how that planet is put together and everything. Because when you start getting to grips with exactly what the planet has provided us with and what its operating conditions are, everything that life on Earth does is in direct response to those operating conditions. So the Goldilocks zone, is just one of the things. That's the temperature range to have liquid water, basically. But yeah, there were about another 8 features of Earth that make it a whole Goldilocks planet as well. So there are, it's a challenge for a planet to actually match Earth, to be honest. But I do think that the likelihood, there is most probably a distinct likelihood that there could be other planets similar.
It's so interesting, sort of when you go into detail of what water does and its importance, and obviously it holds such more importance or more meaning, in South Africa and in Africa, as opposed to, maybe in the UK or Europe, where it is more abundant. But obviously we have come to know in South Africa how important something like water is, but not just the importance of it for life, but something that I didn't really even think about until I was going through your lessons, was it as a transport system. It moves things from one place to the next, and how important that is. I mean, you don't even think about that.
No, it is. It is quite an extraordinary element. Just the fact that it can exist in these 3 states, the whole way it cycles around the Earth. It's just the whole system that has been designed for planet Earth is absolutely phenomenal. And yeah, I that's what excites me about sharing all of that with people, and again starting to realize just how grateful we need to be for what we have, and to learn to work so much better with it. An interesting thing would be that if there was extraterrestrial life out there looking down at our planet, they'd most probably think cars are far more valuable than water, to be honest, the way we treat our cars and washing them with life-giving water. But anyway, it's just something to think about. Do we actually really give water the value and the respect we should?
Definitely. So once again, just to remind anyone watching this on replay, keep sending in your questions. Watching it live, you got any thoughts for Sue, please send it in. The final part of this evening, and obviously these are just quick fire episodes where we just get the conversation started. So the final part of this evening is all about our neighbours and our sort of, where we are. We spoke a little bit about the Goldilocks zone and the Earth's place in the universe, but what about all of our neighbours? And there are quite a lot of them, actually, but one in particular, and once again, something I didn't even think about how important it is. One in particular, we're going to talk about now and show a little video. So check this out.
A constant companion and chaperone, the moon, who helps keep us on the straight and narrow, keeping us at the perfect angle and slowing and stabilizing our rotation so we're not too tilted, too wobbly, and not too fast. All of which has a wonderfully calming effect on weather and the seasons and our day and night cycles. And together with a little help from the sun, our moon also creates the tides, which help set up currents, which help circulate nutrients and regulate temperature and influences climate. But it does so with just the right level of tidal forces to not cause major changes to heat or volcanic activity and ocean currents in the process. And then there's Jupiter, who is an absolute star when it comes to being a good neighborly planet. Its immense gravitational field acts like a giant vacuum cleaner, sucking in rogue asteroids, comets, and meteors, which may otherwise be bombarding us. Although apparently it does sling a few our way too, perhaps to serve as a reminder of just how lucky we are.
I love that. I saw something recently on NASA's social media about how important Jupiter is actually as well. So the timing of that was quite good. It's fascinating.
Yeah, and obviously, more and more knowledge gets gained, and so one has to almost probably have to keep updating some of these lessons even. But it is even just doing the research, for putting that module together. It really also just brought it home to me again, just how fortunate we are, and also that the Goldilocks zone extends then to our planet's position in the solar system, and as well as our sun's position within the galaxy. So and our galaxy's position within the broader universe. It's all, a lot has come together to make it possible for life to have emerged in the first place. So extraordinary. And that moon, I mean, our day-night cycle, if it wasn't exactly who he was, I mean, we'd be spinning around far too quickly, and we'd be wobbling and doing all sorts of things. So
no, exactly. And you'd be forgiven for thinking, well, all these factors that come into play, obviously we're going to be the only one in the universe that's managed to pull this off. But, that's where our mind can't comprehend it, because the universe is so unbelievably massive that we can't actually even possibly answer that question. That's my view, at least.
No, for sure.
So we got a question come in from Connor. He says, so how does nature handle unwelcome neighbours?
Look, I think, there are a diversity of ways that nature does it. I think the bottom line is nature really tends to go in for repelling. It's not about trying to kill off neighbors and enter into wars and things like that. There's a lot more collaboration even within territorialism and things like that. And I think that's what's really important for us to start to understand, that biomimicry is also about donning different lenses. And we've kind of been, the narrative we've been telling ourselves, which then has formed this lens that we've put on, is that of competition and cutthroat competition, survival of the fittest, and all of that. So I think if one dons a lens of collaboration, you start to see things differently as well. There certainly is defending of territory and all of that, but it is far more collaborative than what we would think of. But they use all sorts of things. It could be chemical messaging. If you're a plant, it's obviously
I know there's been, it was one of the animal organizations that did a petition to get people to stop using the phrase stop behaving like animals in a negative sense. To be honest, we should be behaving like animals because they are less wasteful than humans, I suppose, and the same with anything in nature.
Absolutely. And I think you've touched on quite an important point to me, is our language use as well, starting to think differently about some of our expressions, and I agree. Maybe we should be behaving more like animals. Once you realize what's happening out there, it's extraordinarily humbling.
So Julie, thank you so much for your participation tonight. You've sent in another question, or another comment, so to speak. Says there's so many nuances and complexities, and remarkable that make up Earth's functioning. There must be so many lessons for us from nature, aside from design elements like social interactions, community structures, etc. 100%.
Absolutely, Jules. I couldn't agree more. And I think, that's why we've taken this particular approach to biomimicry for this biomimicry online course, to say, well, let's look at it as a way of life, a way of being, which would actually very much involve your social interactions and things like community structure, and how that should be influencing just how we live our lives on a day-to-day basis, and then nesting that outwards also into communities, town planning, things like that.
So another tricky question that's come in, and I suppose you've touched on this a little bit, but Mia says, are there any parts of nature that you've come across that do not serve a purpose?
Absolutely not. We may not always understand or see or comprehend the purpose, but no, I haven't. So I know a lot of people, what's the purpose of a mosquito, you know? But when you start to, again, understand the niches and the roles everyone plays, and that we're all part of this interdependent, interconnected system, that nothing, actually, you know what, Leonardo da Vinci said it far more eloquently than I could ever, you know, where he said, nothing in nature's inventions is lacking, nothing is superfluous. And that's not just relating to the invention side of things, it's just to their presence within an ecosystem. Nothing is lacking, nothing is superfluous. Yeah. So thanks for the question, Mia, but to my knowledge, no, I cannot always identify what the purpose is, but I know they have one. And it just, again, I think it depends which lens one puts on that you can start to see those purposes, and just valuing them for being a fellow companion with us on this, our planetary journey. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay, so for just to round up and end this off, what we'd like to do for these live streams at the end is give you a little bit of a takeaway, give you a little bit of an activity, something that you can, you know, do in your own time. And this is very much following in the mold from what we're trying to create in Biomimicry Online, which is available at theexpeditionproject.com. Sue's designed a fantastic set of 4 modules so far. 5th one's on the way soon, and many more to come. And they're all going through some, you know, amazing topics, just like some of the ones we've explored today. But Sue, is there a particular sort of something that you want people to walk away with from today that they can maybe do in their own time or have a think about?
Maybe just 2, actually. I'd really like, if you're lucky enough to have, you know, starry skies that you can go out, I think just going out, looking up, and just thinking of this vast expanse and what an incredible home we have. And just being awed by that night sky. But also maybe just giving some thought to the fact that we often, you know, we're spending billions on trying to find life out there. How would you maybe approach actually discovering the life right here? We've got 30 to 100 million different species waiting to be discovered and entered into relationship with. So maybe just giving some thought to how you would actually maybe tackle that with the same kind of interest and sense of adventure and discovery as what we want to put into discovering life out there. Let's turn that to finding the life and discovering the life right here with whom we share our planetary home.
Brilliant. So just a reminder to everyone watching this live, watching this replay, keep sending in questions, comments. Go and check out the other live streams we've done. Sue also participated about a month ago now, actually. Time has flown on, in the Wildlife Conservation in South Africa conference, online conference, which is a fundraising conference for 8 different organizations, including Sue, so she can continue her research and some of the fantastic work that she's done. And we sort of put together this conference where we're speaking to lots of different organizations. Sue was a part of that presentation for that. So go and check that out. The fundraising continues for that. Obviously, things have been so tough for so many tourism organizations, as well as anyone participating in any fields of research or anything like that. So it is vital. So do show some support if you can. Go and check that out on the expeditionproject.com. But for us, what we're going to do is see you again next month. So we're going to do these the first Thursday of every month. And they're going to be taking, as I mentioned at the start, a chronological order through Biomimicry Online. And then starting to get the conversation started. So spread the word, get involved as much as you can, take on board Sue's takeaways from today. And yeah, that's it from me. Any final words from you, Sue?
No, just go out and enjoy and appreciate the planet and everything it's done to make it possible for us to be here. Perfect. Thanks, Roger.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening, and we'll see you soon.
Cheers.